We are ready. Okay, so the Mishnah was talking about um, comparing the rights of a father to the rights of a husband in terms of the daughter slash wife. And the Mishnah says Zakhaibim Siata, that the father owns whatever lost objects that his daughter finds. So I mean, obviously, if you find something, you're responsible to return it to the owner, but of course there are circumstances where that's not possible. You try, etc. At some point it becomes abandoned property, and then it belongs to whoever finds it. And in this case, if a woman or a girl finds it, then her father it retains ownership. And why is that? So Gemara says at the top of the next page, Mishum Eva, because of enmity. Okay, so what Rashi says is that we don't want any ill will to be engendered by the daughter towards the father, because then he can cut her off, not support her. And we don't want that to happen because she'll be poverty stricken and hungry. So we're kind of knuckling under to the power of the father in order to not engender any ill will. To find something, and should we let her keep it? That seems a little.
You mean towards his daughter?
Towards his daughter, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a stingy father.
Right. I mean, I guess it depends what the lost object is. If it's a winning lottery ticket,
I got it. It's your daughter.
If that were the case, I mean, if it's that much value, then she doesn't need the father anymore, right? So, I don't know what to say about this. It seems like on one hand, it seems a little perverse, right? That we don't want to antagonize the father because he's powerful. He has power over her. So we kind of remove the girl's property rights so as not to antagonize the father. It doesn't seem like the best policy. On the other hand, it's practical in the sense that if this were a real concern, and apparently, I mean, I'm going to take the Gemara at face value that this is a real concern, then it's maybe better to be practical and ensure that that people are not put in the position of being poverty stricken than to stand on principle. That is a judgment call which you can determine your own attitude towards. Next thing, V'masi Adel. Her work, right? If a woman or girl works, and what happens to the wages, or what happens to the things that she makes? Let's say she's a cottage industry, she's sewing something or whatever. Who owns that? The father owns that. How do we know that? The Amar of Huna said, Minayin Shemase Abaslav. How do you know that the whatever the child makes belongs to the father? Shenamar, verse says, Kim Karishas Bitolama. Person sells his daughter as a maidservant. So clearly he has the right to sell her. So just as, I might say that since the whole idea of the sale is that the owner now owns whatever work the woman does, right? So it must be that the father had that right to sell in the first place. Which is the way I understand it, but literally with Gemara says, just as it's a comparison, just as the purchaser owns all the earning rights of the woman, so the father owns them as well. The same applies to the daughter. Oh, so wait a minute. Who is the father allowed to sell a woman who is a katana, who's under the age of 12, right? But what about when she becomes a little older? She's 12. I can't sell her anymore. So then, then maybe a girl who has reached that age and the father can't sell her anymore. If the whole basis of the idea is that he owns her for her productive work because he's allowed to sell her, but when he's not allowed to sell her, then maybe he doesn't own her anymore. So my answer is Mistabra Daviyahabu. It's a logical thing that her father owns the work. Because if you say it doesn't belong to the father, it belongs to the woman herself. What about, we know that the Torah allows the father to marry off the daughter, right? says, you're marrying so-and-so, it's going to be at Wednesday at 9 p.m. Better be there, right? Maybe she's working Wednesday at 9 p.m., right? How can he force her to do something that will cause her a financial loss? How come about he's he doesn't have control over her time, then how can he set the date of a wedding, right? This is a bit of a it seems like a minor concern, but the Gemara answers, Parich Ravachai. Ravachai solved this as follows. Ema diyav laschar pekata. Okay, so you know what? So the father says, be there at 9 o'clock. You're getting married. Here's $20 for your time. Okay.
So she doesn't have to consent or anything like that. She's a Nara.
Right.
If she's a Bulgarian,
and then yeah, she gains her independence gradually. I don't remember offhand at what point he can no longer marry her off.
Most of us we're talking about a Nara or a Katana Nara, right?
Right. Yes. Iname Damasio Labulelia, or the wedding's at night and she doesn't work at night, so it's fine for him to set the date of the wedding because he's not interfering with her earning power. Iname Damasio La Shabbosos V'Yom Tovim, or the wedding's going to be on Shabbos for Yom Tov.
Really?
Which that's an interesting one, right? Can you even do that?
I don't believe so.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
I've never heard of anyone being Jewish and being married on Shabbos.
Me either. But remember that what I think one of the problems with that is the idea of a kinyan, of an acquisition, right? That you're handing over a ring, you're doing a business transaction, essentially. It's really what the marriage is on a legalistic point of view, or shtar, or with a written document. Right. But there's a third way, and that is through sex, right? That technically you can marry, two people can marry through the act of sex. So that you could do on Shabbos, I guess. I mean, I guess there would still be a thing of acquisition.
has a whole commentary about this.
Yeah, I don't have it on my page because I don't have a regular Gemara with me.
Maybe like an hour before Yom Tov or something like that.
Oh, so she would already be not working anymore.
Yeah, like something like that. I don't know. I'm just something like that.
Yeah, I believe if I remember correctly, I mean, obviously not from personal experience, but I think my grandparents got married on a Friday afternoon, and I think it was common in the old country to have weddings on Fridays or Erev Yom Tov because then the wedding meal would be, and you could invite poor people and so on. It would double as a Shabbos dinner. Anyway, Ella. Okay, so now we're still so there is a way to understand that. So you can't say that the way we know that the father can owns the work of the daughter is that because if he can marry her off, that means he can control her, cause her a loss in wages. He can also marry off in a way that doesn't cause her to lose wages. So how do you know that the father controls that? Owns that work? So my answer is not a different answer. For a katana, you don't need a verse to tell you that. Hashta zabonim is law. You can sell her, right? Masiyademi buy. Like, yeah, this is kind of obvious, right? If I can sell you, then I have clearly a strong ownership interest in you, and so it follows that implies that I own whatever productive work you do. What you need the verse for is for the Nara, for the little bit older girl who you can't sell, and therefore we need the pasuk to tell you that the father indeed owns her productive work. Whoops. Okay. Next item in the Mishnah, Hafaras Nidareha. The father, this is a whole parsha at the end of Bamidbar. The father can annul the vows, a girl's vows, right? So a girl who is in the house of her father and she's old enough to make binding vows, if the father hears about it and then on the same day he says, I'm not letting you take that vow, then the vow is annulled. Where do you have that from? Because there's a whole parsha on it, and so this is the Torah of a person who takes a neder, a vow, and it details everything there. I'm not sure why we're quoting exactly the sum up verse, but it's quite clear. A father can accept the get on behalf of his daughter, his minor daughter, obviously. And where does that come from? In the parsha of divorce, it says, if a woman gets married, then she can divorce and go marry somebody else, right? The terms are v'yatza, she leaves, v'haisa, and she becomes the wife of another man. So by itkash yitzia lahavaya, it kind of links the leaving to the being. Okay, in other words, the divorce and the remarriage are linked in this verse, and so we already know that the father can marry her off. So therefore, by this link, we know that the father can also accept her divorce. Oh, can the father marry her off again? Oh, I don't remember. If she's still underage, does she go back to the father's domain? Don't remember. Only one chance. Okay, I'll buy that. So this refers to if the daughter inherits money from the mother's side of the family, okay, then the father has no rights to the interest or the fruits that let's say it's an orchard, right, is the typical case that we deal with. So the father doesn't get to any rights in the fruits of the orchard.
So the mother died, and there was no sons or something, so it went to the daughter.
Right.
Is that
the daughter inherits, right?
Right. Obviously,
right. And it's
right.
Yeah. Well, actually, the mother. Maybe it's if the mother dies, and does the daughter get it or the husband?
Maybe it's a stepmother or something, or.
Well, then it wouldn't be his.
Maybe it's his mother, her mother, but it's not
right.
her.
It could be a grandparent. Maybe the mother is already dead, and the grandparent dies and leaves an estate.
Okay.
And there's no other, and she's first in line. So Tan Rabbana, Ha'av Eino Chalperos B'chayavito. In open brisa that agrees with our Mishnah that the father does not get the fruits. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Hav Ochel Peros B'chayavito. Rabbi Yossi says he does. What is the argument here? Tanakama Savar Bishlama Bal Takin L'Rabbanan Peirei. Why do we have in the first place this idea that a husband, that somebody else has an interest in or ownership interest in the fruits of the woman's property? So the husband has that right. I understand that the rabbis gave him the fruits, the imkain mimna v'lo parik, because if he doesn't, then maybe if she gets captured, if she's held hostage for ransom, then he'll say, you know what, it's not worth it for me to ransom her. In her absence, I'm gonna inherit, and I'm also going to continue to consume her produce. No, if I don't get the peros, then they're giving the husband an interest in his wife remaining alive, okay? Because as long as she's alive, he gets to consume the fruits. If she dies, and it wasn't his property to begin with, it goes to her heirs, not his heirs, not to him. Okay, so there's an interest. We want to make sure that he has an interest in keeping his wife alive. So that applies to a husband. Of Michael and Amar, what are you going to say about a father? Husbands can be assholes, but pardon my French, but fathers are not going to leave their daughters to not be redeemed. Like even without this incentive, he's gonna just remember we should be recording. So good thing I wasn't recording that. Yeah. Sorry, I'll try to remember tomorrow to find out how to do that. The father is going to redeem her regardless of any financial considerations because he has an emotional attachment. So that's why we say the father has the right. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda would say, Av name mimna v'lo parik. No, a father might also, not want to redeem the daughter. Why? Savar kisa nikita ilave tezel v'tifrek nafsha. It's like you have a bag full of money. like she has, she has property, she has means, let her go redeem herself. What do I have to pay for it? Okay, so that's why. Okay, that was a bit of a strange passage, but be that as it may.
It goes in line with the Ava thing from on the top, right?
Yeah, that's right. And again, but these practical considerations, first of all, like really, like we're going to institute we're going to have this whole blanket rule because sometimes people get kidnapped and they happen to have property, and it's a woman who happens to have property. Like, how often does that happen, right? Even if kidnapping were common, the situation where the woman has this property, maybe not so common. I don't know.
Well, it's a whole question.
Seems a little odd.
Attachments versus financial. I mean, that's why people sign prenups and all this other stuff, because there's could always be conflicts between financial and emotional.
That's true. That's true. Good point. Yeah, and maybe this is just a representative thing, right? The captivity thing is just representative of a whole class of situations.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay. Next thing in the Mishnah, Nises, if the father's daughter married, Yaser Lavabal Shehu Chopero. So then the husband has more rights than the father did, because he, according to our Mishnah, that the father has no rights to the fruits of her property, whereas the husband does. So he has extra rights. Tanarabanan, Rabbis taught, Kasala Peros, Kasus Vikalim, Shavoim, Amabesa Vila Basebala. If the father in the marriage contract, if the father agreed to give her peros, which is like the produce, right, the fruit of property, ksus, clothing, or kalim, or other utensils, so it's a dowry basically. Mesa, if she dies, the husband does not inherit these things. These things belong to the woman's family, and they don't transfer to the husband's family. Rav Nassan says no, the husband does get the property rights to those. Maybe the source of this dispute is this other dispute between Rabbi Elazar and the rabbis. It's not. We have a Mishnah. It's normal in Niskarsha. A woman who is widowed or divorced, whether she was fully married or just engaged in the rabbinic form of engagement. The husband gets everything. Sorry, I missed the line. Oh, okay. So the Tanna Kama, the rabbis say that there's no difference between full marriage or an engagement. The husband gets everything. If they're fully married, then the husband gets everything. But if they're just engaged, then it's a matter of the ksuba. That the typical amount of the ksuba is that a virgin. In the case of a virgin, the husband gets, she gets $200, or if it's a widow, she gets $100, and he gets the rest. The only reason that he wrote in the marriage contract that she gets everything is like he didn't really mean it. No, sorry, not that he didn't really mean it. It was only like the ksuba doesn't. The ksuba is signed on the understanding that the marriage is going to be completed, right? Makes sense. So if she's only engaged and she dies and they never get to complete the marriage, then the ksuba in this contract in which she is given everything is not, is false pretense, basically, because the marriage never got complete. Because his intention was that he wanted to marry her. So let's say that the one that says that the husband does not have the rights to the dowry the full dowry, he holds like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, just as the husband, can add on extra money in the ketubah only if they get married. It's only effective. So the same applies to this case of the woman's father giving a dowry that's only on the condition that they actually get married. And the one and the other one, Mandi Amar Zacha, and the one that says that she does get it, like the rabbis in our Mishnah, that doesn't make this distinction. Where it says, actually, everybody, you could say everybody holds like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, and this is how it works out. Mandi Amar Zacha, if you say that he doesn't, that he does not get the full dowry, Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. That's what Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah says. Mandi Amar Zacha, when the one that says he does get it, did I say that wrong? The one that says he doesn't get it is like Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah. The one that says he does get the whole thing, Ad kan lo kamar Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, al mididei l'dida. When does Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah make his statement? If it's, that's when the husband is giving her the ketubah, right? He's saying, you marry me and I'm going to give you all these benefits. But here it's the other way around, with the father bringing in the dowry. That's a different story. There, that's, that was agreed to. We can say in that case that was agreed. Even Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah would say that was only on condition that the marriage proceed.
Mm-hmm. So if the father gives a dowry to his daughter, she dies before the Nisuin, he gets his money back. That's what we're saying?
Yes, that's right.
Doesn't go to the husband.
Well, that's the argument here, but we could say, now we're just saying, like, even Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, it's unclear, he could go either way on that. There could be, that dispute could still exist.
Right. That makes sense to me. I mean, because the money is supposed to be to help them have a life together, right, or something like that. I mean,
yeah, right. That's the that's a pretty compelling argument, right? That, like, the whole point of the dowry is that they're going to get married. But the other one would say, look, a deal is a deal. Unfortunately, you wrote this contract. Everybody agreed to it, and then she died. That's unfortunate, but.
That's why we don't do the Erusin and the Nusuin separately, because.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right. Who knows what could happen in the interim? Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy, all these cases.
Just asking for trouble, right?
Just asking for trouble, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the whole half of this Masechet is about stuff that happens between
for trouble.
She sleeps with somebody, she gets raped, right? I mean, it's like it's a whole hornet's nest, whatever.
Yeah.
Somebody dies. It's crazy. All right.
And just to finish up the sentence, I won't be done with the day, but the case of the dowry, I feel that the dowry was given on the occasion of the engagement, and that actually happened. They didn't get married. That's too bad. But it's not necessarily the case that the dowry was contingent on the completion of the marriage.
Engagement.
Yeah. So there's machokas, should give back the engagement ring if you don't get married, right? Yeah.
You hope.
Okay. Chayvim is on the side. The Mishnah said the husband has to provide sustenance, food for the wife. Tanarama. The rabbis taught Tiknu Mazon Aseh Tachas Masiyadeh. Why did the rabbis give her the right to be supported? Tachas Masiyadeh, because it's an exchange, right? She has to, if she works, he gets the money. So what's she supposed to live from, right? So it's a deal. Like, the husband gets her productive work, the value of her productive work. Therefore, the rabbi said, you know what? You have to make sure she's fed. And the fact that he has to bear the expense of burying his wife should she die, that is an exchange. This obviously can't be the ksuba, because the ksuba is the obligation of the husband to the wife also, but the ksuba here means the obligations of the wife to the husband, in terms of since he gets to consume the fruits of her or of her property. Therefore, in exchange for that, he has to provide burial money for her should she die. That's why the husband gets the produce of her property. So wait a minute. Peros mandachar shemei. We're commenting on something that's not even in the Mishnah. The Mishnah didn't even say anything about the peros, right? So we're going to reread the Mishnah. This is how you have to read the Mishnah. They gave her food in exchange for her productive labor. Ufirkona tachas peros, and the obligation to redeem her from kidnapping is in exchange for the peros, the fruits of the orchard that he gets. So in exchange for that responsibility to redeem her, and the responsibility for paying for her burial is in exchange for the property she brings in, the dowry. Okay, my lafikach. So what do you mean by saying there because of lefikach bal ochel peros? Therefore, the husband gets to eat the peros. What does that mean? Maybe the idea is, like, I would have thought that not that he can consume the produce, but he has to put it in a trust account. Right, that should it become necessary to redeem her, there's the money that he could use. No, that's not what it means. The Baal Ochel Peros, that the deal is he's responsible for redeeming her because he gets to consume the fruits. Because if we do it the other way, because if we do it the other way, we say that, you know what, all the money that you earn or the fruits of this orchard or whatever go into a trust fund. Maybe the trust fund won't be big enough when she's kidnapped. Maybe higher ransom. So he'll say, you know what, I would like to redeem her, but she hasn't contributed enough money yet to the marriage. Yeah, next year, you know, if we have a good harvest, I'll redeem her. Yeah. So therefore, we don't do it that way. We don't make it this like direct thing, but rather he gets to eat he has continuing rights to the fruit, and she has continuing rights to be.
So the idea is that he shouldn't have to pay out any money to get her back. It should all come from her payroll.
Well, no. That's what we're not saying. Right. What we're saying is we're going to do this exchange of rights and responsibilities so that he is always obligated to redeem her, even if it's a fortune. Right. Because he got the theoretical right to profit from her property. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
There's no money actually saved up. It's just
okay. So Gemara says, wait, why don't we do it like, say it's the causation is the other way around. Like we're saying that because he has to redeem her, therefore he gets he gets to consume the fruit, right? He gets the profits. Why don't we say the other way around? Because he gets the profits, therefore he has to redeem her. We're looking for more common situations. Okay, so it's a common obligation is sustenance, right? Like every day you have to eat, right? It's not every day that you have to be redeemed. And so the common the common right is her, what she earns, right? Actually, I asked the question wrong. The question really is like, why do you connect A to B and C to D, right? Do it the other way around. The answer is that the common obligation of providing sustenance is linked to the common obligation of getting the value of her productive labor. And the other things, the kidnapping and the profits from her possible dowry, is less common. So those two are linked. Our Rava. Haitana Savra Mazonos Midarais. This Tana in the Brisa that we're about to get to he holds it's not a rabbinic thing that the husband has to support the wife. It's a biblical thing. The Tanya, here's the brisa. She'era, so the Torah says, she'era ksusavi asa lo yigra. When a man marries a woman, he cannot detract from three things. Well, we understand it's three things. We'll see how the Gemara interprets it. But she'er, ksus, and ana. Now we're going to explain what do those three words mean. She'era elu mazonos. So this first Tana says she'er means food. And how do I know that that word she'er means food? V'cheinu omer. Oops. V'cheinu omer v'asher achlu she'er ami. The verse, where is this from? I forget.
Micha, looks like.
Okay. Yes,
Micha.
Micha. So who eat the flesh of my people. Okay, so flesh, it's a bit obscure, but that's how we're going to assume that she'er means eating. Ksusa, what is ksus? Kamashmo, clothing. That's what the word means. Onasa, what does ona mean? So ona, what was it? Zo ona hamur b'Torah, v'cheinu omer im ta'anas b'nosai. This is the ona that that is referred to the Torah where Lavan says, if you oppress my daughters, he says to Yaakov, we're going to have this deal, but if you oppress my daughters, now what is your wives who are my daughters, then the deal's off. What does oppress mean? So the Gemara understands this to mean by not giving sex, not providing sex. So okay, so the word ona means sex. So we have three things: she'er, ksus, and ona means food, clothing, and sex.
How do we get that from the verse?
Yeah, that's a little obscure, right? Like how else would you afflict your wives?
You say, like, if you take other wives.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. So what Lavan actually says there is, if you oppress my daughters, and or if you take other wives. Now, why should you care if you take other wives? Because then sleep with the other wives and not with you, I guess. I mean, you can understand that differently also, right? You can understand that as, whatever. But anyway, that's, does this verse really prove that? I would say one could argue, and in fact, Rabbi Elazar is going to argue. So, Rabbi Elazar Omer, she'era zu ona. No, the word she'er means sex. V'cheinu omer, ish shall call she'er b'saro lo tikru l'galos ervai. When the Torah forbids incestuous relations, so uses the word she'er, right? She'er b'saro, like closeness to your own flesh. So she'er means sex. Ksusa kamashma, ksus means clothing. Onasa elu mizonos, and ona means food. And what's the proof text for that? When Moshe is reviewing the history of the 40 years of wandering in the desert, he said, God afflicted you and made you hungry. In other words, at the beginning of the, like he took you into the desert where there's no food, and he uses the word vayancha, he oppressed you, made it difficult for you, and that refers to hunger, so therefore ona means food. Okay, but it comes out the same, whichever one you translate, it's still the same three things, right? Food, clothes, and sex that the husband has to provide.
Yeah, I don't know what the,
sorry?
I don't know what the import of the, whether it matters how you derive the
yeah, which is which. Yeah.
Right.
But now Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov has a different view. Omer, she'era kasusa, lefum she'era ten kasusa. No, he says these are not three separate things. She'era and ksus is not two nouns, it's a modified noun, meaning you give her clothes according to she'er, according to her body. What does that mean? You have to have some fashion sense. You can't give a young wife old lady clothes and vice versa, right? So she'er modifies ksus. It's not a separate thing. And also ksus avionasa. And what about the third thing? Ona. Ona also modifies ksus. Modifies clothing. Lefum onasa ten ksusa. You can't give her a parka to wear in the summer, and you can't give her a bikini to wear in the winter. Okay. You can't give the wrong seasonal clothes. So again, there's really only one obligation, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, clothes and appropriate clothes. Tell me, Rabbi
So there's no mizonot obligation?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Just clothing.
No, or
I don't know what to say. I don't know. Or you could say, you know, this is the biblical obligation. The rabbis instituted the other things.
In exchange
For, yeah, as we, right. Tanya Rav Yosef. And that's how Rava led off this segment here by saying, guess what? This Tana in the following brisa holds that these are all biblical obligations, but not every Tana agrees, right? No,
this
it's
thing-
really a really thing as we've been assuming all along.
The thing about ransoming, by the way, we're on the next off, by the way.
Yeah, well,
The ransoming definitely is not a biblical obligation, right? Doesn't look like it.
sounds like, yeah. I mean, there is an obligation on the whole community to ransom some, or to ransom a captive. But here we're talking about if it's specifically the husband's money that has to go for it.
Right. It's not in the ketubah that you have to ransom your wife.
Right. And let's just do the next short piece. Tana Rav Yosef She'era Zukeruv Basar. What does She'er mean? That is actually like touching the skin, right? Touching the flesh. What does it mean? Don't sleep with your wife with your clothes on, right? You should have actual contact. And this supports Rav Huna. Someone says, I don't want to have sex with my wife unless we're both clothed. That's inappropriate. We can force him, or she can force him to divorce her and to pay the ketubah. Okay, I guess we'll stop here.
Fair enough.
Tomorrow.
Words to live by.
It's interesting though, because there are Hasidic sects and SECTS, and I don't think it's that common. I think there are just certain sects in which you've got the stereotype, but it has a source of having sex through a hole in the sheet.
I don't know if that's really true. I've heard that, but I'm not sure if that's really true.
Okay. But this Gemara explicitly contradicts that anyway. So that's
I have heard that, but I don't know. I've never heard of that from a reliable source.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard.
I
that's
stand
not true.
corrected. All right.
It may be true, but
I don't know. My impression was I don't have sources anymore, but I think it's true of certain obscure sects.
yeah,
Like, again, SECTS, but
yeah.
not widespread. Yeah. Okay. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. I've heard that too, but I don't.